Okay, balik po tayo. Ito, makapasok na mga text natin. 0910-081-4318. Ano po ba ang pinagkaiba ng Constituent Assembly at Constitutional Convention?
Okay. Number one, ang Constitutional Convention, yan ang unang pamamaraan na paano ma-amyenda natin ang ating saligang batas. Constitutional Convention. Ibig sabihin noon, eleksyon sa buong sambayanan. Every province and highly urbanized city will be entitled to an X number of delegates. Pipiliin ng taong bayan.
Is that mandatory or can the members of that constitutional commission that will amend be simply appointed?
All right. Let me go to the second mode muna of revising the Constitution, which is by Constituent Assembly. Ang Constituent Assembly, ibig sabihin noon, ang Kongreso lamang, both houses, the Senate and the House,
voting together or separately?
Jointly deliberating, but voting separately, can amend the Constitution through a Constituent Assembly. Now,
actually, that's not even in the Constitution. The word Constituent Assembly?
Nandiyan po. Tawag nila nun CONAS. Kaya nga ayaw ko yung CONAS because that sounds like a convention of asses. Sira ulo. So dapat Constituent Assembly. And that is found in the Constitution itself as the second way.
But is it well defined?
Well, it only says that when the method of revising the Constitution is by Constituent Assembly, both houses will have to act together, and that is what they're now discussing, whether to
Does
deliberate
acting
together
mean acting as a body
as
or
a body,
acting separately?
as a body, and then voting separately. My proposal is that they should act together, deliberate together, and then but vote separately because there are only 24 senators. Malulunod ito ng tsunami of the more than 250, you might say, members of the House, if they are to vote jointly. So better vote separately.
Okay, well, you might end up with two different kinds of proposals for amending the Constitution. In other words, when they vote separately, they may be voting on different things.
No, because they are voting on the issues already together, deliberating on the issues together.
But the vote of
on the
Congress
issues,
is the same as the vote, or in other words, has as much weight as the vote of the Senate.
That's right. In other words, the vote of the House may be different from the vote of the Senate, in which case there has to be what is usually done, a conference committee.
Oh, yan ginagawa sa common legislation.
In other words, to reconcile the differences.
Why then is there a proposal to bring the issue up to the Supreme Court now?
Well, dahil siguro, I'm just guessing, because what appears to the people now is that sinusulong ng House, mag-amend muna ng saligang batas, defer the elections, and then have
Extend the term?
have a transitory provision for so long, 10 years. Hindi tama yun. I disagree completely.
All right.
Because you cannot set aside the right of the people to elect their own officials whom they are entrusting the powers of government on their shoulders.
In other words, at this time, there are term limits that are valid and existing.
Correct.
And they cannot be extended simply by common vote in Congress and the Senate.
No.
It has to be a part of a plebiscite.
Correct.
That proposes a one-time term extension, if
Correct.
at all, or new.
That's right. In other words, one of the things that can be amended in the Constitution. Yes.
Okay. So now nakikita natin ito, okay, sila ngayon magde-deliberate, etc., etc. If this is going to be brought before the Supreme Court, what is the issue that they want the Supreme Court to rule on?
Palagay ko itong proposal na lumalabas ngayon na para bagang the House can act on its own and the Senate can act also on its own, and then later on come together to have a discussion. Ang gusto na mangyari na yung deliberation should be joint, but the voting should be separate.
I'm going to ask you a question because you went through this whole thing with the local government in terms of devolution, no?
Right.
Na maski na meron ng, you remember that the local government people had to go to the Supreme Court to get a ruling for the national government to release the funds that were already mandated by law. Bakit hindi dinamanda yung administrasyon na yon for violating the law? Aren't they obligated?
Well, actually, tulad ng sinabi ko, 3 departamento lang yan under the local government code that have been devolved to local government: agriculture, health, and social welfare. And all the appropriations for these 3 departments are supposed to have been evenly
Distributed.
To the different local government areas. But kung may mga local government units who feel na, hindi kami nakatanggap ng what is due to us, they can go and they should go to court because yun po ay
Ang isa lang na
kapangyarihan
nalaman ko
natin.
doon na demanda dyan, or one of them, na he's not the only one, I think, was of course Governor Dodo Mandanas.
Yeah.
He went to court and eventually the Supreme Court said ibigay, and then finally the national government began
Correct.
because they would have exposed themselves to criminal charges.
Of course, obviously.
Okay, from 0916-461-7106. Kapag nag-shift tayo sa federal form of government, will this pave the way for the implementation of the BBL?
Okay. Now, regarding the BBL, ang narinig ko lang na stand ni President Digong, he wants this discussed together with the issue of the adoption of the federal system. Because the Bangsamoro Basic Law actually, pinag-aralan ko yung ang daming defecto. Ang daming defecto.
No, we know you were really well standing up against it. But let me ask you a question regarding the BBL. At least this is what the papers reported, that he made a statement that the BBL must conform to the Constitution now.
Absolutely.
If that is true, then how can he have a BBL? Because what the BBL wants, pinag-aralan naman natin lahat yan, is the kind of autonomy that the Constitution does not allow us to grant.
Absolutely.
Because the Constitution only allows 2 autonomous regions, that is ARMM and the Cordilleras, and they have already been formed.
But not only that, alam mo, under the BBL, ang election, for example, para lamang sa mga members of Congress. Ang mga gobernador o mga executive officials, hindi. Which will be, against the very principles that we are supporting under the Constitution. Hindi po pwede yun.
So you are saying na hindi pwede na ipasa muna yung BBL.
No.
Kailangan muna baguhin ang saligang batas. At malaman kung anong ilalagay doon.
Yeah, not only that, ang ibig sabihin, yung BBL na yun, talakayin na rin when we are speaking of the adoption
Amendment.
of the federal system.
In other words, if we talk of that, but let me just ask you again a very important question. Napakahalaga yang sa Mindanao.
Yes.
But it is not a national issue. In that sense, that is overriding the concerns for the type of government that you and I are supposed to have in this country.
For the entire nation.
For the entire nation. Because sa aking pagkakaalam, ang sistema ng federalismo, kinakailangan por lo menos 5 hanggang 10 taon to prepare to shift to a federal form of government. How does that sit with you when you are saying, hindi, itulak natin ang federalismo ngayon?
Alam mo, ang nakikita ko lang from the practical point of view, no? Why is the issue of federalism coming to the fore? Number one, because for the first time in the history of our country, we have a president who espoused federalism as a part of his campaign platform. And now that he's president, he's pushing for its implementation. I am not too sure na ang sunod na administration will have the same point of view.
Well, the other problem that we have here is, ang problema dito, pushing for federalism in and of itself is wonderful, but if you do not define the transitory period and what's going to happen during the transition period, that is like asking for an awful vote of faith.
Which is true. And that is why when we adopt the federal system, a part of that should deal with the so-called transition problems that you have in mind.
Okay, if you are head of a government, you want federalism, that seems to go against your desire for greater power and autonomy in order to do things and to accelerate the advancements of this nation. Where are we going to go? Parang contradictory yung kagustuhan na yun eh.
No, that's only a seeming contradictory because
Okay.
as a matter of fact, ang intention ng federalismo is to widen and broaden the devolution of powers that are now enjoyed by local government officials.
Pero balik na naman tayo dun sa issue, the devil is in the details. Eh. And if we can see some kind of document that tells us what these transitory provisions are really going to be, it might be an easier sell.
Of course, and that is the reason why I'm saying that in the proposal to adopt the federal system, kailangan ng public discussions. Hindi po pwede na ang Senado at ang House will just hold public hearings here in Manila. Dapat umikot sila sa buong sambayanan and allow the people to participate in the public hearings as to have their inputs into the topic.
Well, we'll have to wait to see if this thing happens and how. 0919-221-2562. Ano po ang advantages ng proposed federal form as well as the disadvantages? Broad question, but nonetheless,
Yes.
we totally to the genius.
Advantages, kapatid, ang daming kapangyarihan na ngayon nasa kamay ng national government. For example, bigyan kita ng example. Kung ikaw ay taga isang probinsya at ang probinsya mo gusto mag-imbita ng investor to come your way, hingi ka muna ng paintulot ng NEDA. You cannot do it on your own. Pero kung mag-federalismo tayo, bawat federal state would have that power to invite investors to come their way, provide incentives na gusto nila ibigay na hindi na kailangan aprobahan pa ng Maynila. That's one advantage. Therefore, the prospect of providing work for the people will be right at your doorsteps, as it were.
What about the idea that, lahat kayo humihingi ng parehong bagay? Pwede ba natin ilagay ito sa 5 state?
Pardon?
If the federal states are asking for something which is the same as what the next state is asking for, and the third state or the fourth state, how will that be reconciled by the national government?
The powers will be evenly distributed. Meaning to say, that power to provide work for your people through inviting investments without passing through, the
Malacanang.
strictures of national government would be given to all federal states.
I know, but will that not result in many duplication of facilities?
In what way?
In other words, kung ako magtatayo ng ganitong mga negosyo dito, ikaw magtatayo ng kaparehong negosyo dun sa ibang lugar, baka naman ang kapasidad ng economic activity yon may be now so great that both projects will fail.
No. This is where the innovative intelligence of the people running the government will have to come in. Meaning to say, hindi naman basta-basta na, sige, punta ka rito kahit anong investment ilagay mo. Yung investment na gusto namin, yung tugma sa pangangailangan ng aming mga tao.
Pero hindi ba medyo pare-pareho naman madalas yung mga pangangailangan ng tao sa bawat state?
And therefore, good. Because which means no single state will be privileged to have the power to address the concerns of their people.
Okay, what I'm also saying here is nakikita natin dito na iba-iba ang kakayahan ng bawat state.
Right.
All states are not created equal.
Absolutely. Now, how do we solve that? Okay. For example, when you talk about the federal state of Eastern Visayas, Samar and Leyte, you compare their capacity to develop to Central Visayas, malayo sila. Therefore, how will they survive in a federal setup? We can make the less endowed federal states with the power to survive the demands of their own development by making sure that a loan commission would be established in the new constitution, where the people of the more deprived states can go to for assistance in terms of their needed development. It is just like when we were a new republic, Mona, we used to go to the World Bank and the IMF, but these are foreign agencies. This time, gusto ko loan commission ilagay na sa ating bagong saligang
Their
batas.
own local DBP. We have to pause for a few reminders because of some reminders. We'll be right back.